Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. The Bank of Korea has decided to keep its interest rate steady for the sixth consecutive time, as concerns remain over rising housing prices and the foreign currency exchange rate. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said prospects of relations between Pyongyang and Washington depend entirely on the United States' attitude, saying if the U.S. withdraws its confrontational policy, there's no reason the two sides cannot get along. The comments came as North Korea announced that it held a military parade last night, as it wrapped up one of its biggest political events, the Ninth Workers' Party Congress. Samsung Electronics unveiled its Galaxy S26 smartphone series, which contains key AI features that can help users in their daily lives. The company emphasizes that AI is integrated across the operating system of its latest models, providing various AI agents and stronger privacy protection. We begin this morning with South Korea's central bank, which has kept its benchmark interest rate steady at 2.5%. The Bank of Korea announced the decision this morning following a Monetary Policy Committee meeting. This is the sixth straight rate freeze by the central bank amid continued rising housing prices in the capital area and a weakened Korean won against the US dollar. The central bank also raised the expected growth rate for the current year to 2.0% from 1.8% due to rapid growth in chip exports. Meanwhile, the inflation rate this year was adjusted to 2.2% from 2.1%, considering the weakened Korean won. And now for a deeper analysis of the Bank of Korea's decision, we're joined today by Professor Kim Jin-il, Professor of Economics at Korea University. Professor Kim, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So the Bank of Korea has decided to keep its key interest rate unchanged, and this is something that was widely expected, right? What's behind the central bank's decision?
So basically, the Bank of Korea is considering that the current rate, which is at 2.5%, is basically at a comfortable level as far as the whole Korean economy is concerned. As you mentioned, there are many features that the Bank of Korea is considering about Korean economy. Exchange rate is one thing, stock market is another, but most importantly, it's inflation rate and how the economy is evolving in terms of the employment and other parts of the real economy. So some are really good, like the stock markets, and also exchange rate is pretty in the low range relative to where it has been the last several months. But other parts is not doing as well. Inflation is low, but still above the 2% target. And most importantly, economic activities are pretty low. If you go around the restaurants during the lunchtime, you can easily see that many of the restaurants have been closed down, and that's a problem. So overall, Korea is thinking of keeping the rate at 2.5%. And you mentioned that Bank of Korea has been on hold for 6 times. And since they have meetings 8 times a year, it's almost a year. So for almost a year, they think the current rate is at their best or comfortable range.
Right, and how long will the central bank maintain the current interest rate? What can we expect for the rest of the year?
So since they didn't expect any immediate action like going up or down in the near future, that's what they have been thinking. And since they raised the forecast for the Korean growth of 2026 from 1.8%, which was announced 3 months ago, and now it's 2.0%. So given this increase of their projection, I think the Bank of Korea will maintain unless other events happen on either side. So they will hold it pretty constant. And furthermore, I think actually they announced the rate like 15 minutes ago, and in about 15 minutes, they will issue the statement, which is like 1 page or 2 page, the statement about their short explanation. And we did it first time in their history, in its history, in the history of Bank of Korea, they'll start announce their own dot chart. Like the dot chart in the US Central Bank, it may be called K dot chart by the media, and they will announce what the MPC members, policy members are thinking about what the rate would be 6 months from now. So in 6 months, they will issue the economic projection and when the rate would be, in 6 months, what the rate would be at that time. And 7 members are putting, I believe, 3 dots, and then so it'll be 21 dots. They'll be announced in about 15 minutes from now. And I'm sure that it will be a hot item for analysts in Yeongju to discuss for a day or at least a few days.
Right, and you talked about inflation. The Bank of Korea also released its updated forecast for the country's economic growth this morning. What's your take on the central bank's inflation outlook?
Inflation outlook is still above 2% target, but it's converging, and next year's expectation is basically 2%, which means that even though it's a little bit low, it's higher than the target, which has been like that since COVID, right? And then other countries were even worse. Like in the US, inflation was around 9% for a few months as for CPI. And Korean inflation was not as high as that, but it was still much higher than 2% target. Now it's moving down to 2%. And in terms of their projection, this year is a little bit above 2%, I think 2.2. But next year, if it moves back to 2%, which is exactly their target, they don't have to match the target every year. They are matching the target in the medium run. So if it is forecasting, it's following the path of the projection in its release this afternoon, I think they will explain why they feel comfortable about this forecast. And if economy stays above 2% in terms of growth and going towards 2% in terms of inflation, I think that's what they call the Korean's potential.
I see. And you also mentioned that the stock market's doing really well. The benchmark Kospi actually topped the 6,000 mark yesterday, just about a month after that surpassed 5,000 points largely driven by a chipmaker rally, including Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix. How long will this momentum last?
Yeah, that's $1 million question, and nobody knows. What I do know for sure is nobody knows. Yeah, that I can tell for sure. And from 5,000 to 6,000 in a month, it's like 20% in a month. I don't know too much about the history of the Korean stock market. So 20% in a month, that's pretty rare, I believe. I don't know when the last the big bubble of Korean economy was. And in the US, there are a few episodes in the recent history. Of course, if you go far, there are more. And I believe that it could be both components. Some of them are like this fast. How long? They cannot increase by 20% many years, right? It's not easy. It's almost impossible. And Korean economy, of course, it was undervalued, that's for sure. But how much? That's a question. So in terms of that, the stock market rally would converge to a similar growth with other countries, the stock market growth, which is still high. That's because of AA, for sure. Yeah. But this fast growth of 20% a month, I think that cannot be sustainable forever. Of course, it could go for a while for sure. I'm not saying it's today or tomorrow, right? But nobody knows when. But some market adjustment, not the huge drop, but like going down to the international average level of stock market growth, that is, I think I can say it's inevitable, but when, that nobody knows.
I see. All right, Professor Kim, thank you so much for your time and insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
North Korea's ruling party has reiterated its unwavering determination to strengthen its nuclear forces and exercise its status as a nuclear weapon state. According to its state media Korean Central News Agency this morning, the regime's leader Kim Jong-un expressed its defense policy of bolstering national nuclear capabilities as a strategic line in a report during the 9th Congress of the Workers' Party of Korea. He added that Pyongyang would have no reason to not get along well with Washington if the U.S. respects the regime's status as a nuclear-armed state, and suggested that U.S.-North Korea relations depended entirely on the U.S. attitude. At the same time, Kim described South Korea as the most hostile enemy, dismissing the possibility of dialogue and reaffirming North Korea's two hostile states doctrine towards Seoul. Pyongyang also held a military parade on Wednesday night in connection with the Key Party Congress, which concluded on the same day. Over in the United States, the White House is signaling that new U.S. tariffs could soon rise to 15% or higher for some countries. The warning comes after President Trump imposed a 10% global tariff following a Supreme Court ruling on tariffs imposed last year. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
The United States is signaling that tariff rates could soon rise beyond the newly imposed 10% global levy. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer said Wednesday that while a 10% tariff is currently in place, some countries could see that rate increase to 15% or higher. Speaking during an interview with Fox Business Network, Greer did not name specific trading partners, but said future rates would be in line with tariffs the administration has recently pursued. The comments come after President Donald Trump suffered a setback at the Supreme Court last week when justices struck down his sweeping so-called Liberation Day tariffs introduced last year. In response, Trump announced a new 10% global tariff. According to a notice from U.S. Customs, an additional 10% ad valorem duty, which is a tax levied based on the determined value of the item being taxed, has been imposed on imported goods from every country for 150 days starting Tuesday, unless specifically exempted. Trump has also publicly floated raising tariffs to 15%, citing Section 122 of the Trade Act. That provision allows a president to impose tariffs of up to 15% for up to 150 days to address trade imbalances. The administration says the measures are aimed at protecting U.S. economic interests, while trading partners are closely watching how far Washington is prepared to go. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Back here in South Korea, a key strategy meeting was held on Wednesday to discuss ways to expand tourism and boost the economy. President Lee Jae-myung called for the need to leverage the popularity of K-culture to lead a boom in tourism while people from around the world can feel Korea in person. Our Blue House correspondent Yoon Jung-min reports.
Nurturing tourism as a key pillar of economic growth. This as President Lee Jae-myung took matters into his own hands on Wednesday by presiding over a national tourism strategy meeting, the first to be held at the top level in about 7 years.
K-컬처가 촉발한 문화산업의 발전은 결국 대한민국 관광으로 기결돼야 합니다. 전 세계인들이 직접 대한민국 땅을 밟고 대한민국을 체험할 수 있어야 합니다.
The number of inbound tourists hit nearly 19 million last year, and the government aims to attract 30 million foreign tourists by 2029. On top of that, the president called for the need to balance out resources and create region-specific travel programs to enhance the quality of tourism.
지금처럼 외국인 관광객의 80%가 서울에 집중되는 현실에 만족하면 관광산업의 성장이 한계에 봉착할 수밖에 없습니다. 관광산업 성장의 기회와 과실을 전국 골목 상권 그리고 지역의 소상공인들이 함께 누릴 수 있어야
Ideas for exchange to help boost tourism outside the capital.
For example, Korea can bind together traditional sites in Andong, Pusoksa Temple in Yeongju, and petroglyphs in Ulsan as a connected route and form a cluster for tourism.
Preparations are underway for a Visit Korea Year campaign from 2027 to 2029.
With the help of private firms and related ministries, we will ensure no foreign visitor experiences any inconvenience when paying or using public transport, no matter where they go.
South Korea is also looking to ease visa rules, expand its automated immigration clearance service, and increase international flights to airports located far from the capital area. To root out tourists being ripped off and chronic problems hampering tourism, the government plans to mandate mom-and-pop stores and small lodging houses put up and update price information. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
And South Korea's tech giant Samsung Electronics has unveiled its latest flagship smartphone series in San Francisco. The Galaxy S26 series focuses on seamless AI to help users in their daily lives. Our An Seung-jin has the details.
Reach, openness, and confidence.
These are the three keywords Samsung Electronics seeks to push forward with its latest Galaxy S26 series. South Korea's tech giant unveiled its latest flagship smartphones at the Unpacked conference in San Francisco on Wednesday, local time. The Galaxy S26 series, including the Galaxy S26 Ultra, Galaxy S26 Plus, and Galaxy S26 emphasize an intuitive artificial intelligence experience that everyone can use.
That's why Galaxy AI is designed to be easy and always available, adapting to you seamlessly and effortlessly without a learning curve.
AI is integrated across the operating system, providing noticeable assistance to users' daily lives. A key feature that reflects this is the Now Nudge, which suggests actions based on context rather than waiting for explicit user commands. For example, the phone automatically checks for scheduling conflicts when receiving a message about a meeting, or displays a shortcut linked to a curated page of relevant needed images. Now Brief, a similar feature, organizes daily schedules by extracting not only calendar entries, but also unrecorded meetings from conversations. The Galaxy S26 series also features an integrated AI platform that not only supports its own AI voice assistant Bixby, but also allows users to set Google Gemini and Perplexity as default AI agents. The latest AI also strengthens privacy protection. The Ultra model showcases a privacy display feature, the first of its kind on a mobile device, allowing users to restrict screen visibility. The Ultra and Plus models also introduce AI-based image processing features. And to support these expanded AI capabilities, Samsung has worked on boosting its hardware performance. The Ultra model is powered by Qualcomm's latest Snapdragon 8 Elite 5th generation for its chipset improving CPU and GPU performance. It has also minimized performance drops caused by overheating. The Galaxy S26 series is set for release in more than 120 countries, starting with South Korea and the United States on March 11th. Pre-orders in South Korea will run from February 27th until March 5th. An Seung-jin, Arirang News.
And artificial intelligence is also taking flight at South Korea's largest drone exhibition in Busan. Global firms are showcasing the latest unmanned technologies across key industries. Our business correspondent Kim Jun-ho was there.
The future of the skies is no longer science fiction, but an AI-driven reality reshaping both battlefields and industries. Asia's largest drone exhibition, DSK 2026, is underway in Busan, drawing participants from more than 20 countries. Defense remains the industry's most strategic domain, with the Ministry of National Defense unveiling AI-driven combat systems and autonomous operations. Developed by the ROK Army, this drone integrates AI algorithms trained on simulated combat scenarios to assess targets and simplify conventional command procedures.
The AI identifies the most suitable military unit and weapons for the target, and the information is sent directly, allowing for a much faster response.
Industry players are also integrating AI into new drone capabilities. This surveillance drone, supplied to the Marine Corps, can detect floating objects in inaccessible areas, suggesting uses beyond the battlefield.
For example, AI now powers agricultural machinery and even seed planting drones, making everyday tasks more efficient. Today, AI is at the center, with drones serving simply as the platform for its expanding applications.
Beyond the exhibition floor, global visitors are closely watching Korea's growing drone capabilities. What stands out to many is the industry's ability to deliver fully integrated solutions.
The Korean companies are very, very competitive. What I admire is the capability to build the final product and sell the final product with all the support, software and hardware. That's very inspiring.
Drones are expanding their role across multiple next-generation industries, and with AI now embedded in these systems, a new chapter is beginning. Kim Junong, Arirang News, Busan.
An F-16C fighter jet has crashed in a mountainous area near Yeongju in Gyeongsangbuk-do Province during a nighttime training exercise. South Korea's Air Force says the aircraft assigned to Cheongju Air Base went down at around 7:31 p.m. on Wednesday. The pilot safely ejected and was found stuck in a tree at around 8:10 p.m. Authorities completed the rescue operation shortly before 10 p.m. He was taken to a hospital and is reportedly in good condition. The Air Force says no civilian damage has been reported, and a task force has been formed to determine the cause of the crash.
Good morning, I'm Chu Ji-hyun, and this is The World Now. The United States imposed a new wave of sanctions on Iran on Wednesday, one day before nuclear talks resume in Geneva. The new sanctions target ships, companies, and individuals accused of selling Iranian oil to fund Tehran's ballistic missile and weapons programs. The Treasury Department said the penalties hit 12 vessels and several firms tied to Iran's oil exports and weapons procurement. The sanctions freeze U.S.-based assets and bar most financial dealings with American entities. As well as economic pressure, the U.S. has positioned 2 aircraft carriers and large fleets of fighter jets in the region, signaling readiness for military action if negotiations collapse. President Donald Trump has demanded Iran abandon uranium enrichment, while Iran's foreign minister said Tehran will not give up its right to peaceful nuclear technology, but insists it will never develop a nuclear weapon. The high-stakes talks come amid rising regional tensions following U.S. airstrikes on Iranian nuclear sites last year. In the U.S., Harvard University announced on Wednesday that former U.S. Treasury Secretary Larry Summers will retire from his academic post at the end of the school year as the university reviews his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Summers, who had once been the university's president, has been on leave since November. Newly released Justice Department files show years of contact between Summers and Epstein, including visits and email exchanges. Summers previously acknowledged that his association with Epstein was a major error in judgment. U.S. tech firm Nvidia on Wednesday topped Wall Street expectations and issued a first-quarter forecast that beat analyst estimates, underscoring continued momentum in artificial intelligence spending. The chipmaker posted fourth-quarter revenue of $68.1 billion, up 73% from a year earlier, and earnings of $1.62 per share, both above forecasts. Profit nearly doubled to about $43 billion. Data center revenue climbed to $62.3 billion, fueled largely by hyperscale cloud providers expanding AI capacity. Nvidia projected first-quarter sales between $76 and nearly $80 billion, exceeding Wall Street's $72.8 billion estimate. Shares rose more than 3% in after-hours trading. Kyoto Mayor Koji Matsui on Wednesday proposed Japan's first dual bus fare system, lowering costs for city residents while charging more to non-residents as part of efforts to curb over-tourism. Kyoto, home to 1.43 million residents, welcomed more than 56 million tourists in 2024, including a record 10.88 million foreign visitors. City officials said congestion and delay on buses have become severe. Kyoto plans to seek approval from Japan's Transport Ministry and aims to introduce the system as early as April 2027.
It feels as though spring has arrived early. After a chilly start, the morning is warming up quickly, so heavy coats will feel a bit too warm in the afternoon. Although it remains winter on the calendar, temperatures are running nearly a month ahead of a schedule, and it's going to stay that way through the weekend in the capital region. Meanwhile, dry weather advisories remain in place for the capital area and parts of Gangwon-do province, and fire precautions remain essential while the air quality stays clean nationwide today. And this afternoon, most major cities will be getting up to 14 degrees Celsius, with more clouds expected in the southern parts of Korea, with rain starting from Jeju Island tonight. In fact, Jeju and the east of Gangwon will see more wet weather, while southern provinces will be under cloudy skies through early next week. So please plan accordingly for your long weekend.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.